Hi and welcome to Thursday Thriving Talk. This I think it's the 32nd day of the feast, and I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Marina Demchenko, Dr. Marina Demchenko. I'm Sue Cooper. I am co-founder of Feast for the Soul, and Feast is in its 17th year, which is quite extraordinary. We've grown every year from small beginnings with Valerie Sconey, who started it in 2008. Everything was on a website, and then gradually it moved online, and then it moved into the virtual. And now we're live each day, so it's quite extraordinary. Now we've all got a handle on Zoom. So Marina, may I introduce you, and then we'll just have a beautiful chat, because I'd like people to really feel into your beauty and who you are and what you're doing and how you're supporting me and a number of people in our home city of Nottingham in England. So here we go, and I won't say it all because I don't want to take all your spotlight. Hang on a minute. So Marina, weaver of abundant reality, earthling with Slavic roots. Marina's got a PhD in economics. You are a TED speaker, and I know you're going to talk a little more about that. A researcher and practitioner of integral, individual, organisational and territorial development. First ever advisor to the mayor of the city on the holistic well-being and happiness of citizens in Russia. Again, you're going to talk a little bit more about that. You're co-founder and COO of Living Cities Earth. I'm also a co-founder. And Marilyn Hamilton, who was also led one of the meditations the other day, is co-founder. And there is 100 co-founders now. We'll talk a little more about that. It's an incredible horizontal organisation, and I feel very privileged to be one of the co-founders. So there's so much more I could share, but it's your story. Marina, welcome. I'm wondering if you could first introduce yourself a little bit about your background, because it's intriguing coming from Russia. Where you are now, and then we'll talk a little bit about Living Cities Earth and the Inner Key project. So are you, oh, hang on, let me unmute you. Can you unmute?
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. You look lovely in the forest, all dressed in green.
Yes, thank you so much. That's our sort of signature background for the Living Cities Earth. Thank you so much for invitation, and it's a great honor for me really to be here with you today. And yes, I have Slavic roots. I'm originally born, and I have been working most of my life in Russia, in the city Rostov-on-Don, in the southern part of our country, not far from the Russian-Ukraine border. And I will talk about it a little bit later. Now I'm based and working in Oxford for already half a year. And it's a great pleasure and joy for me to have an opportunity to start contributing to the city development and to the development of communities of wonderful people, not only in my native town, in my country, but also globally. And it happened thanks to Marilyn Hamilton's support, with whom we translated my work into English. And my work initially was based on books of Marilyn Hamilton. And thanks to you, Sue, and to your wonderful friends and colleagues in Nottingham, who decided to become the pioneers, I would say, of the Living Cities Earth movement in promoting inner key approach, and I hope that we will discuss it later a little bit. So as a researcher, I was invited to become the advisor as an official position to the mayor on the holistic well-being and development of citizens in small Russian town Zverevo. It's a small and not so prosperous, I would say, mining town, again, not far from the Russian-Ukraine border, with only one company which was working in this mining industry, and it was semi-Russian, semi-Ukrainian. It was in 2020. Then the pandemic began, and amidst this not so wonderful period, I would say, this mayor invited me to help him encourage citizens to feel what they can really do themselves for their city. As I mentioned, the city is not so prosperous, with lack of budget, with dying mining industry, with very obsolete infrastructure. And really, city administration, they were in despair because they could not do anything without money and without sort of support of the, yes, they received some subsidies from the regional budget, but it wasn't enough, and there was how to say, brain drain. Yes, so people went to bigger cities, and nobody wanted to stay in the city, so they were sort of dying, shrinking. And the idea was to encourage people to understand that they really can make a difference, both through contributing their own time, efforts, and even small money in order to develop their small city, and by connecting together and launching the projects for which they can require some new, some more budgets. It was initial budgeting called in Russia. So if you have some amount of citizens who bring their own money to the project, these citizens, they can ask for some additional money from the regional sort of budgets and some additional funds. So they raised a very substantial amount of money through different channels, from grant application, from this, they really contributed a lot to the city development through these joint efforts. And speaking about happiness, and my role in all this process was to invite people to contribute and to find an assessment tool, how to measure the level of satisfaction of these people and the level of their proactive activity, how people themselves perceive what is going on in their city and assess their own capacities to influence in this situation. And that is how the inner key diagnostic tool appeared, because this mayor invited me not only to work with these citizens and to invite them to contribute and to help them create these initiatives and projects and manage these projects, but also to understand how we can manage it. And when I tried to look at the different indices of happiness which we have from all over the world, different approaches to well-being, we suddenly realized that all these approaches are about the level of satisfaction. They are about measuring to what extent people are happy that someone from outside came and made them happy. What conditions are created to make them happy? What opportunities are created for them to have some sort of things which make them happy? But none of these indices were looking at their capacities, opportunity, and readiness of these people to contribute something themselves. And it's really important to connect different voices of the city, about which our dear friend Marilyn Hamilton talks, that it's really important to have different voices, to have different approaches, to have different views. Only in this perspective we can see what the city really needs. Otherwise, it's only one perspective of the city administration, and very often this administrational perspective absolutely doesn't align with the perspective of the common people. So,
Can I just ask? Thank you, Marina. Can I just ask you, because am I right in thinking that the city that you were working with was very close to the Ukrainian border? So when the war started, there's a little bit of a story there, isn't there? Because obviously this man is incredibly enlightened to start this with you. What happened when the war started?
yes, it's very interesting, because in this city of Zverevo, it started amongst the pandemic, when people were absolutely demotivated. And in another city at the same region, but another city named Taganrog, maybe you know famous Russian writer Chekhov.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So that's the native city of Chekhov, Taganrog. He was born there and raised there. So they also 2 years later, in 2022, they decided that they want to measure their level of happiness and proactive development of their citizens, and again to engage their citizens to contribute to the development of their city, because it's an absolutely wonderful, nice city at the shore of Azov Sea. It's sort of the touristic place with a wonderful history, with Chekhov, who was born there. So lots of wonderful sort of things which could make this city attractive, but it was also rather in bad condition because of its sort of connection, and it is not just several, maybe 40, maybe not more than 100 kilometers from the border. And then the war started. The mayor of the city was asked, do you really think that that's the good time to make this assessment of happiness at the city which is near the border amidst of the war, and people are overwhelmed, and lots of refugees came from the western part of Ukraine to Russia, because they are mostly of them are Russian-speaking people who came to Russia during the beginning of the war. And so it was absolutely chaos and disaster and loss of help, and people didn't understand why it was all started and how to handle with all these things. And the mayor told us that that's precisely the time when we need to assess this level. And yes, I understand that the results will not be good. And I'm ready to this. But we really need to understand, first of all, what could and should be done in order to support people in this situation. And at the same time, it's the time for us to reconnect. It's this time for us to find the basis and the source of inspiration inside ourselves, not waiting it from something outside. But we really need to take our own agency for our own lives, for lives of our neighbors, for our city, and do our best to handle this situation on which we can't influence at all, but we need to survive somehow. And it was very powerful, and it really brought hope to these people. And when we presented the results of this survey, they really created several very powerful projects which were connecting people from business, from the third sector, local administration they just supported. They just didn't sort of prevent it from doing something. They just helped, and lots of wonderful projects appeared, and it really brought hope to those people.
You see, this is
Yeah.
the point, isn't it? Is I mean that it could be the survey and the whole ethos brought into a war zone. And with this enlightened mayor saying this is a time we need it, and then if we transplant that into what's happening in the world in many cities, and I kind of talk from experience because our city in Nottingham, England, is going through a trying time because they have filed for bankruptcy, and there is still money there, but of course everything changes. And what I'm finding, and the incredible people who are supporting this in Nottingham, as we start to galvanise compassion, as we start to rise up, and it's not easy to rise up, is it? You know, but it's like I can't not do anything. I know there's lots of double negatives in there. I really have to do something. It feels so important that we haven't, at the moment, not just in our city, but I would suggest throughout, the agency does not exist for the citizens, which make up 90% of the totality of a city. So, and of course, as you talked about, you know, the other voices of the business and third sector, charities, etc., and business who coming together to sit round together and to have those heart-based conversations. Because I would suggest, and this is what we're experiencing, is once you start having those heart-based conversations, you realise that everybody feels the same way. To do something on your own, but when you can start to energise that momentum and empower people, saying everybody counts. And I'd just like you to mention it, if you would, about the analogy of the MRI scanner or the masterpiece, because with that engagement and the activation, I truly believe anything is possible because the will to succeed, it comes from a different place, doesn't it? So yeah, would you share a little bit about your vision about how we can do this, not just in my community, but people who are on the call from all over the world could get started?
You know, if you would allow me, I would tell more about the structure.
Yeah,
So
please.
the questionnaire is based on the 3 set of questions about individuals, organizations, or teams or communities, so sort of in interactions between people, and about the society and the perception of the city as one living entity, one living organism. And through these 3 different perspectives, step by step, the questionnaire, there are no questions. There are statements with which you are suggested only, you either agree with them or disagree. And in this case, when you see this statement, you sort of you're taking it to your heart, and you are thinking, you agree and disagree. This brings you sort of the reconnection with these statements. And in this situation, most of people who took part in the survey, they told me that it brings hope, it brings them agency, it brings them new understanding that, yes, I really can think in this way. I really can perceive the reality in this way. And of course, some of the questions, they can look strange, or maybe you can disagree with them, and that's absolutely normal, because it is created in such a way that if you agree with something, just you're lying. It's absolutely clear, because you can't agree with everything. But in the same situation, you can find already, even without having results, through answering this questionnaire, this survey, you already are starting thinking about what you can make differently, what you can do. And as we discussed it with you, Sue, and with your colleagues, that it's like the collective creation of masterpiece, when each of our sort of respondents, they have these painting brushes and small dots which you are putting on this wonderful masterpiece, and you are painting the whole picture of your beloved city together. And I really hope that this approach, through these positive statements, which people offer to agree or disagree, this will bring to the world another perspective. I intentionally didn't create any negative vision there. Each even maybe not so nice situation which can happen in the city, it was altered, formulated in a positive way. So if you don't agree, I will understand that the situation is not so good. But at the same time, it's really important that we formulate all our statements and all our vision positively, because it brings another perspective. You know, my favorite saying, I don't know whom it belongs, that about two people who looked at the puddle. So one person looked at the mud in this puddle, and another saw the stars which were reflecting in this puddle, and everyone sees their own picture. And it's really important, I think, for us to learn and to help others to learn, to see stars even in the puddle.
Yes, yes. The bit that, the part that really energizes me is this sense of, you've got it written behind you, living cities.earth to human world together. And Marilyn added to it for the sense of aliveness about this, you know, I sense that when things are not going according to plan, and there are struggles and challenges within a city, the media get hold of it, and of course then another momentum starts, and to be able to sense that there still is, nothing's really changed. There's still that massive sense of aliveness in the city. Okay, the infrastructure may change, shops are closing and things are changing, but the narrative, the overriding narrative is one of can't, but the people then get involved in that, because of course, you know, you follow the narrative. But when we can come in, armed beautifully with a structure that is scientific, and it's confidential, but there'll be some outputs, and there'll be some feedback, which is beyond the city who are saying this is what you should do. It becomes a proper structure. So this humaning well together for aliveness of person, people, place, planet, it flows so beautifully, because that's, I would say, in the hearts of all of us, we want to thrive, don't we? We want that sense of aliveness. We want that sense of well-being. We want a quality of life that nurtures us, and not just us, our families, and those who are yet to be born, you know, to put these seeds in place. So shall we move just on to a little bit about Living Cities Earth? You as COO and co-founder, would you explain about the situation of like the 100 co-founders? Just a little, just
Yes, it turned out that we are the biggest expert community in integral development of places, of cities in the world. And we have lots of people who work in urban development, in social development, in culture, in psychology, even in organizational development, but through the ecosystemic perspective, looking not only at the organization, but also how these organizations influence and impact the places, the cities. And you know, I think and I truly believe that each city is alive, and it's a sacred place. And if we want to be prosperous ourselves and our families and our organizations, it's natural to contribute to prosperity of the places where we live, because we belong to these places. We are part of all these complex systems. And you mentioned about my experience of giving the talk at the TEDx conference. I was also speaking about the metaphor that each of us is like a cell in the living body. Maybe that's living body is a god, or some sacred universe, or Gaia, our planet. And it is strange if a cell thinks that her own, its own prosperity doesn't depend on the health of the whole organism. And if a person is a cell, for example, our families or our organizations could be sort of tissues, and our cities could be organs, reflective organs of Gaia, as Marilyn likes to say. And we all, at the same time, end up as the parts of this one big sacred organism. And through this perspective, it's really important for each of us to define what type of cell do I want to be. Is it a stem cell? Is it, for example, blood cell? Is it the neurons in brain? Or do I behave as a cancer cell? Do I only consume and destroy everything around me? And that's my own responsibility. What do I contribute? How do I influence tissues, organs, the whole organism? And it's, from one perspective, it's a huge opportunity, because as a cell, I can contribute to the health of the whole organism. But at the same time, it's a great responsibility, because if I am a cancer cell, I can cause the damage and death of the whole organism. And through this perspective, our Living Cities Earth approach is about bringing aliveness and human in well. And our mission is to support 10,000 cities on Earth to be fully alive, to become places where people live happy, healthy lives in harmony with each other and all life on Earth, with all nature, with all non-human beings. And I think that through this understanding of this responsibility and this love to our Mother Earth, and our readiness to contribute and to serve the health of all being, that's what we are trying to promote and to create and to bring and support leaders in these 10,000 cities to take care of their places and to contribute to the health of the Mother Earth.
It's music to my ears. I'm sure, you know, if I speak on behalf of Feast, our ears, it's a beautiful, evolving infrastructure. We're finding our ways. I mean, we're only about 18 months old, aren't we? And growing, and within an organization which everybody is gifting their time to. we are finding our way, aren't we? And I am so grateful that you chose, or our city was chosen to be able to start this, because we have an infrastructure, we have groups of people who are, we kind of know, or we know, and sort of the last point really before we open, if that's all right for you, Marina, because it's a conversation that could go on for ages, is kind of how to get started. And this is a question that I asked myself. Unfortunately, I knew another beautiful lady called Cindy, who's on the call, who came to Feast to talk about values. So we started with the fundamental part of what is the values that we each hold dear, and what are the values of this work that we're being called to do, and knowing it's okay that we don't know what it is, because that's the other thing. You know, you maybe have a goal in a lot of things, but this is different because it's still in evolution. It's the nurturing of the cells making a full body, like the embryo, really. So really getting started was that energizing pull. It's, well, I found somebody else, or I know somebody else. And then Cindy knew Binny, who's also on the call, and her husband, Peter. It's like, and then, but what we had to do was dream. We couldn't come from ego. There was something going on, obviously, because you want to go into something and succeed, but because we didn't know really what we were doing, but we just knew that we were being called, because we've got hope in our hearts that our city can turn around, and it will turn around, and certainly, you know, with the galvanizing of the compassion. And so I don't know if there's a question in here, but getting started is always the most difficult milestone, isn't it? The key, and your survey is called the inner key. And I'm just wondering if you just wanted to say a few words to that about getting started, because we're developing a blueprint here, aren't
we? Yeah, thank you for this question. I think that if every person who responded this way invites their close friends, their families, their colleagues to give and to bring their voice as a gift to the city. This will be the best way to start contributing. It's easy. You don't need to do something, or maybe to protest, or maybe create something. You can just start by giving your voice through responding to this interview as a gift to the city which you love. And each voice brings the new quality, the new perspective, and the new, maybe new colors to this masterpiece, the picture of the city which we are co-creating together. And it is already a miracle. And the more voices, the more colorful the final picture. So that's the first step. And the second step, the results of this survey, they bring us their vision in generalized way. So it's totally confidential for each of the respondents. But it brings us the opportunity to see what could be the first steps. What are the leverage points where we can, as citizens who love our city, we could contribute without many resources, without many efforts, but it gives precisely vision as an MRI. And I think that Nottingham is not accidentally the first city, because you told me that MRI was invented in Nottingham. So it's absolutely logical that your city is the first for the world for bringing this tool. So you can see where is this pain point, and what what part of their city development can be healed with love, with very small resources, but with much love. And this will bring this cascade of positive changes. So you don't need to invite expensive consultants from somewhere. You don't need to have millions of budget in order to solve all the problems. You will understand where to start in order to ignite this process. And after that, people who really want to contribute further, they can unite their efforts and come together, not only to listen for the results of this research, but also, as I mentioned, for this native city of Chekhov, Taganrog. Some people came and they listened to their presentation, to the result of the survey, and we created for them a small strategic session where they can co-create some projects together. And through this intersectoral collaboration, they managed to find money, resources, administrative support, and all other things which are needed in order to provide success to these city projects. So that's really the magic of connecting not only resources, but first of all, hearts. I think that's the first step to start. Bring the gift of your voice to your city. Just find 40 minutes, answer these questions, and this will be the best gift to the development of Nottingham and many other cities when we will do it in other parts of the world.
Thank you, Marina. And the plan is, as we start inner keys, and then we've got key developments and milestones, we're logging everything, so that the gift to the world will be the roller coaster, as we sort of nip and tuck it as we go along. It would be again a huge honor that we were gifted this opportunity. So I'm so grateful. We could talk for ages, we often do, but I will stop the recording now. Thank you, Marina, so much for joining us, Dr. Marina Demchenko.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.